Hello, everyone. This is Scott from Pro Defense Advisors, just tuning in to talk a little bit about a blog that I've written here. It's going to be a series of blogs. This is going to be the first actual installment, but it's talking about realtor safety. September is Realtor Safety Month, for those of you who aren't aware of that, based on Beverly Carter, who was lost her life in, we'll call it the line of duty as a realtor, in fact, on the job. And it was in September several years ago, and so we commemorate that by making September Realtor Safety Month, because there are a lot of things we can learn from that tragedy. And I try to go through them step by step. I broke it into 4 blogs because I think there's so much material to cover. I do a live in-person realtor safety class. You can see it also online. I think it's real valuable. It's my favorite class to do. And in fact, it's how I got into the security consulting business. I had a lot of friends who are actual agents, and they would be either telling me about experiences that they had, and I would be commenting on them like, hey, did you ever think of, or how about, or that concerns me. And that turned into, boy, I wish you would tell my team or my office about that, and the thing just really took off. So it's my favorite class. It's kind of the genesis of Pro Defense Advisors, in fact, so it's got a special place in my heart. But this first segment, I talk about the general term situational awareness, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but really it's just being able to identify potential problems or potential hazards, process that, and then kind of comprehend it and understand what it is you're going to do and have a plan around it. I recommend to all my students when I do this class to pick up a book called The Gift of Fear, and that's by Gavin DeBecker. He's a pretty famous, I guess you'd call him a security consultant as well, does a lot of bodyguards or close protection type services for the rich and famous and everybody else. And this book, it's a bestseller in like 14 different languages, and it just talks about natural survival instincts and the why and the reason that we have fear, and understanding what to do with that. Doesn't mean we live in fear, just means that we recognize it and then make some decisions around whatever it is that we're perceiving. So I talk a lot about that in the first portion of this class, and this blog will cover a lot of that. A thing about agents, real estate agents, that I've noticed is sometimes you have some that are very aware of their surroundings and the world that they operate in, and that others that are not. Doesn't make one right or wrong or better. It just, I notice that the ones that are not are always surprised when I start laying out the formula of risk. And I tell my classes right away, being a real estate agent, an active agent that goes out into the field and does showings and open houses and meets clients, is in a high risk category. And the reason for that is you as an agent are out in the unknown a whole lot, and you are fully immersed in it. So, for example, clients. You probably don't really know your client. You might, but in many cases, if you've been doing this, or if you do any type of volume, this is probably somebody that you've met off referral, or you had a listing, or whatever the case is. So you don't know a lot about them. You may or may not know the area, and you can say, hey, yeah, no, I know this part of town. Maybe you do, but you may not know that street, who else is on it, dogs, all the things that could potentially be a hazard. So that's an unknown. And final thing is the house, right? You're going to go into possibly a vacant house. At least there's probably nobody home. It's you're not going to know about this house, upstairs, downstairs. There's just a lot of unknowns that agents have to navigate. And I think that element of risk and element of unknown is just something we need to be aware of, and then layer our security plan around that. So, for example, if you're taking an elderly person to show them a home in the middle of the day, that's it's still a risk, but it's a much lower level of risk than if this is a client who you've never seen. They're coming from out of town. They want to meet you at night at a vacant property. 40 miles from nowhere. So obviously that's a higher level of risk, and you want to layer in other concentric layers of security to help mitigate that. So that's really all we talk about. We talk about meeting at the office, showings, having a little bit of a tactical advantage with that. Open houses, that's probably the biggest one. That is the thing that I really tell my students about open houses is you're really in a tough spot because we'll call them bad guy can plan around knowing where you're at. They know that you're going to be doing an open house from whatever 10 to 3. You've been doing it every weekend for X amount of time, so you really have to layer in a few extras when it comes to open houses. And then finally, at least in my class, I won't talk about in this blog, but one of the final segments, I'll talk about personal defense and things to think about, what's realistic, what's not, what the responsibilities are around that, and get into some of the details. So hopefully you get a little bit out of these blogs. I think they're valuable. I know I've got a lot of positive feedback on them. So hope you enjoy, and check out my class if you get a chance.